Success is no accident. It is hard work, perseverance, learning, studying, sacrifice, and most of all, love of what you are doing or learning to do. Pele. My friends, 10 to 15 minutes each and every day. That is what we ask to learn the nuances of how to chart your favorite stocks and ETFs. If you will just stick with it. Of course, you can buy the book. You can print out the free daily market worksheet, weekly market worksheet, and trade worksheets that are in your show notes every day. If you've not signed up and aren't a subscriber for free, go to chartingwealth.com. Do that. You will get special trainings every day. Also, the training today, stop analysis paralysis, limit your indicators. That is a great training. Again, 10 to 15 minutes. Let's jump into these charts. We see gold and stocks down. We see 20-year bonds up. Bitcoin is flat. Now, I've got a question about Bitcoin. Let's start with that. One of our Patreon members reached out to me and said that it does not look like NY XBT is tracking Bitcoin properly. So I went and looked up a couple of other things. I looked up Grayscale Bitcoin. I also looked up the Bitcoin Fund. They look similar. They show that they are down for the day around 0.7% or so. And as I look at these things, I do have some questions as to how all of this is being tracked. I know there are different exchanges for Bitcoin. I know that Bitcoin is valued at different points during the day. And my job here is to find a chart, help you track it, see if there are accurate weekly vertical crossovers that we can follow, two-day recrosses, the kind of things that we look for when charting. Again, I started tracking Bitcoin only because you guys asked me to, and our charts have been very good for it. I am concerned if for some reason the New York Stock Exchange Bitcoin Index is not accurate. If any of you have information on that, I just want to help you follow a chart that is trackable. If the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust is better, if this Bitcoin Fund, which has not been around very long, is better than the New York Stock Exchange Bitcoin Index, I'll do whatever. We'll talk about that when we get to it again on today's broadcast. But let's first jump into the S&P 500. We see that the S&P is down 0.13% for the day. We have a red open box candle, meaning, of course, a slowdown in the up movement. Haven't hit the high of last week. We can see the price percent oscillator slowly pulling away from the red signal line and the derivative oscillator losing some momentum. Also, what do we see going on? Now, this is a crazy week. What ended up happening, and I've noticed this happens at times on TC 2000. When you have the market, you see where the market went through Friday on the two-day chart, and then we have a basically one-day candle that is Tuesday, but it only represents Tuesday. It doesn't represent Monday because why? The market was closed. So it's a two-day candle, but really a one-day candle. And now we have the latest candle that is forming. It's the first day of the latest two-day candle, and this is just Wednesday. It is a red down candle that is forming, of course, showing us where things are slowing. Now, if you ask, Tom, what does this mean? If we have a two-day candle, it ends up being a one-day candle occasionally, what does that do? I just follow it and treat it like I would any other two-day candle because there's nothing else I can do except follow what it is that I'm seeing. And of course, what I'm seeing is, again, the trend slowing, moving over. The candle hasn't finished drawing yet. Right now, the price percent oscillator is below the red signal line. The derivative oscillator on the two-day chart is losing momentum. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens on Thursday when the candle finishes drawing, because it could be what? A two-day recross going down. Now, again, pay attention. Put that on your daily market worksheet. Be potentially ready to short the S&P if that's something you want to practice, whether it might be a put, it might be the inverse fund. We gave you that training yesterday at the end of the program. Again, might be something you want to look into if you're interested in it, and if your analysis tells you that's something you want to possibly do. Remember, all the charts all the time. Use the backtracking rules. Use all the things that we teach you. Learn by doing. You have to do this on your own. We're here to help. We're here to teach. We're here to show. But again, you make the decisions on your practice trades. You stand by those. You note those down on your trade worksheet. I put the training in here on how to fill out the trade worksheet at the end of today's training. For those of you who really want to know how to do that, that is one of the most valuable things you can do, along with filling out the daily market worksheet 4 days a week and the weekly market worksheet at the close of the market on Friday. Let's look at the half day. What do we see there? We saw where it tracked along and then really started pulling over, going down on the 7th, and then hard down on the 8th, which is, of course, Wednesday morning, and losing a little bit of that downward momentum in the afternoon. But again, that's where we are on the S&P, so note that in your show notes and be ready to potentially act. Let's move on to the Qs. Down for the day, 0.35%. Now, we have the price percent oscillators about flat, derivative oscillator gaining a little bit of upward momentum. We see the high last week was 382.71, 382.78. We talked about that yesterday. We are just a few cents higher for the week. We look at the 2-day, and of course it is still positive, but heading down on the price percent oscillator, derivative oscillator gaining upward momentum. But look at this red spinning top that is forming. Again, pushed through very quickly that 2-day trend line. Of course, still well above the weekly, but losing momentum. So keep your eye on that. What do we see on the half day? Down in the morning, not quite as much in the afternoon. Blew through that half-day trend line. Derivative oscillator accelerating in its downward oscillation. That's where we are on stocks. Let's move to 20-year bonds, up 0.68% for the day. Nonetheless, still a down week. Price percent oscillator positive, but less than flat. Derivative oscillator green, but losing momentum. Solid red down candle with a wick on the bottom forming. Look at the 2-day. We can see a little bit of a recovery. What does a solid green candle mean? Well, they typically follow solid red. It means a slowdown in the down movement. Okay, just like a open box red candle follows a green open box on Heikin Ashi candlesticks, it means a slowdown in the up movement. So we see the price percent oscillator slacking off in some of that downward momentum. Derivative oscillator still heading down, and still have one more day to form. But again, as we look at things, we can see sort of a devolution on that weekly chart where it is still positive but losing momentum. What do we see on the half-day chart? It is negative, a little more than flat on the price percent oscillator, derivative oscillator negative, losing downward momentum up in the morning, a little further up in the afternoon. But overall, as far as where things are on the 2-day and the weekly, we continue to see weakening in 20-year bonds. Now, lastly, well, not lastly, last in our 4 big charts, we'll go to gold. Gold down for the day, 0.25%. Big down day yesterday, almost 2% yesterday. So down about 0.25% today. We have a red spinning top that's forming, solid red. Price percent oscillator, which had crossed over so strong, is now showing so weak. Derivative oscillator still positive, but that price percent oscillator is just laying over. And again, are we going to have it immediately recross going down? How's gold going to finish out this week? Don't know. Look at the latest 2-day candle, again, heading down strongly, big red down candle wick on the bottom, derivative oscillator losing momentum, price percent oscillator still positive but losing momentum. What do we see on the half day? Again, 2 days of down movement. Lots more in the morning on Wednesday than in the afternoon, so it recovered a little bit of those strong down moves. So keep your eye on gold if you jumped into that weekly vertical crossover. Of course, what would be your easy decision to pull the plug on that, of course, is if you see that 2-day crossover going down. If you wait that long, again, before you jump into any trade, what do? You set your profit and your loss bands, and you follow them. Now, let's again go back to Bitcoin. We look at our Bitcoin chart on the New York Stock Exchange. Bitcoin index looks beautiful, still heading up. Derivative oscillator gaining upward momentum. Price percent oscillator heading up, flat for the day. We look at the 2-day. Oops, here we go. And again, we just see things flat. There's really no movement at all in Bitcoin on this chart for the day. Just flat now, going on 2 days. Now, if we, however, go over to Grayscale, and I don't have every single Bitcoin exchange or fund here, but if we look at these charts, what do we see? Well, we see where things, again, we had a weekly vertical crossover. We see where things went higher, but as that is decelerating, price percent oscillator flattening, derivative oscillator heading down, 2-day chart getting close to crossing over, going down, half-day chart already crossed over and headed down. That is the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, the Bitcoin Fund. And again, I don't know anything about these. We're going to do our research on these things and ask some questions to the right people. We see the derivative oscillator losing momentum. We have a red spinning top that is forming for the week. 2-day, we can see where it is heading down, hasn't crossed over going down yet, but is losing momentum on both the price percent oscillator and the derivative oscillator. And like we saw on Grayscale, we again have 2 days of down movement on Bitcoin. So again, any of you can help out with any information on this. As I said before, the only reason we started covering Bitcoin is you guys wanted us to find a chart and track it for Bitcoin. And we, of course, once the New York Stock Exchange created their chart, that seemed the most likely candidate to give you the most, it is the New York Stock Exchange Bitcoin Index. That was the one we decided to follow. So we will do a little more investigating and figure out what makes the most sense for us to do. That's where we are, folks. We so appreciate you being with us 10 to 15 minutes each and every day. That's all we ask. Patreon members, thank you so much for your support. Book buyers, we appreciate you. Want to know about all those Patreon benefits? Check it out. And don't forget, tomorrow night, 20 weekly vertical crossovers coming at you on the S&P 500 for our Patreon members. Not too late to become one. There's still a few slots left. I know the $100 slots are full. There's still some $30 a month slots available. God bless. All the best from the whole team at Charting Wealth World Headquarters.